This is the best open house strategy if you want to get consistent listings. This is the exact strategy Josh used in order to close over 48 deals in his first year, but also just recently helped a brand new agent get $3 million listings in just 6 weeks, which she's never gotten at that price point using this exact framework. Now, there's 6 critical steps in order to apply this to your market, and Josh breaks them down in immense step-by-step detail. So by the end of this video, you're going to be able to leave and implement this immediately. Now, if you don't know who Joshua Smith is, he's closed over 7,000 transactions in his career, a top 1% agent globally, and has trained over 5,000 agents just like you to break 6 figures in their first 12 months of being a licensed agent. 2 quick things before bringing on Josh. Number 1, I will link his channel below. It is an incredible resource if you want additional tutorials and strategies. And number 2, if you would like his personal mentorship and direct one-on-one help to be able to apply this to your market, but more importantly, be able to build out your CRM to nurture and convert online leads, as well as different effective strategies for prospecting, Facebook ads, and everything that you need to do to break 6 figures in your next 12 months, just click that link in the description. You can book a private Zoom call with him and have an open conversation about what it's like to get his support for free. Now, if you do have any questions about anything that he walks through in this video, drop a comment below. We love getting your questions and your feedback, and we do respond to 100% of comments. So it's time to give you the framework and the 6 steps for the best open house strategy that you need to apply to your business right now if you want consistent listings. All right, Josh, so we're in a pretty crazy time right now. Obviously, the stat came out, 71% of agents didn't close a deal last year. And recently, people that I know mutual to you have been able to see incredible success with the open houses, which is something that I think is very underutilized by the majority of agents, where they host them and then they leave feeling like they wasted their time. But I know that you have some strategies that have been incredibly effective right now. Let's start diving right into that.
Yeah, dude. So, I mean, the reality is everything works, nothing doesn't. So if somebody's doing open house as example, and they're not getting results from the open house, it's not the open house. It's that they don't have an effective strategy that they're deploying towards that thing. So that's the first thing, and we got to take ownership of this and just understand that and make sure that you have the right strategy, the right recipe to go out there and produce results. The other thing too, just to kind of crush one of the biggest myths that I hear. I hear so many in this industry like, oh, I did open houses when I was new in the beginning, but now I'm more seller focused. So I don't do open houses anymore. Look, if you do open houses right, I'm going to walk you through what my strategy is, and there's 6 overall steps to it, here today. But if you do them right, you are going to get a ton of sellers. Now you're going to get slightly more buyers on average, probably 60% buyers, maybe 70%, but you should be getting 30 to 40% of your lead and deal flow that are sellers, right? But again, most people go do their open house and like, they don't work, man. I get always nosy neighbors. Like, dude, I love nosy neighbors. These are homeowners inside the neighborhood that have a home that are going to sell at some point. Now, a lot of times when people say, oh, it's a nosy neighbor. I'm just a nosy neighbor, not that they use that exact term, but I live in the area and I'm just looking. So we classify them as a nosy neighbor. A lot of times it's a defense mechanism. No different than, I get a lot of people that like, oh, dude, I get all these people through my open houses, but they're already working with an agent. No, they are not.
Yeah.
So not saying that some aren't, but here's what I want everybody to understand when it comes to this is, okay, human beings, human behavior, how it works is everybody hates to be sold. Like which one of you watch and listen to this is like, oh, dude, I just love getting cold called. I love it when somebody knocks on my door. Just study your own human behavior. You walk into Nordstrom's and the salesperson comes up and says, hey, can I help you find something? Oh, no, I'm just looking. Okay, are you really just looking? You're not 16 years old, anymore, just going there to, waste time or to check out, guys or girls or whatever. Like, you're an adult, you have a busy life, you're running a business, you're probably on a mission to buy stuff. And look, you probably could have saved some time, energy by getting their help, but it's just a defense mechanism because why? We hate being sold as human beings. So consumer behavior today is people want the information that they want and need to make their best informed decision, but they want to do that in a safe, non-pushy, non-pressure environment. So a lot of times these are just defense mechanisms. So when agents tell me that, oh, hey, I'm working with another realtor. Okay. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily lying. It's a defense mechanism, but okay, if you look at the average lead that you obtain, whether it's through open houses, Facebook, like name the lead source. I want you to just imagine, because this is probably the reality of the situation, that they're in at least a dozen of your competitors' CRMs. So they probably are having conversations. They probably are receiving property alerts. What I want to know is, have you signed a buyer broker, and are you committed to working with another real estate agent? I'm telling you, the vast majority are not at that phase in that stage. So just wanted to go through some of these myths, right? That I hear so much with open houses. And Mike and I both, somebody that's part of the Wolf Pack that I've been working with, a coaching as well, who's in Dallas. I got her on this strategy, these steps I'm going to walk you guys through here. And only about 6 weeks into this process, she's already got 4 listings, not counting the buy side business, but 4 listings. 3 of those are $1 million plus. One of them's around $500,000, just from her open houses. So I just want to just set that kind of tone. The other reason why I love open houses, it's the quickest way to now immediate business that I've found. Whether it be buyer, seller, I mean, it is hands down the quickest way to now immediate business. The other thing too is, with all the new NAR stuff, I don't know if all provinces in Canada rolled out with this, but I was just talking with one of my coaching clients the other day in Ontario. They've now rolled out in Ontario where it's mandated to have a buyer broker agreement before you can show a single property. So they're kind of adopting, the NAR rules here in the US. So it's one of the only scenarios and situations where we can also get face-to-face and tour a property without having a buyer broker agreement signed. So it makes that process a little bit easier. It's also one of the only lead sources. So right now I'm just kind of going to the pros and benefits, right? Of not only is it going to allow you to get to quick money, crush it. You can get to a closing a week pretty easy through open houses if you're doing a good open house per week. But there's other benefits too, right? So like I said, it's one of the only situations where you don't have to have a buyer broker agreement signed to tour that property. So it makes it easier to develop that rapport and kind of sell yourself. The other thing, it's one of the only lead sources where we're immediately face to face with a lead. Because the second they walk in that open house and they sign in, and boom, now they're a lead, right? The other benefit is you get to pick and choose your price point. I have so many realtors or team leaders that come to me and say, hey, I want to increase my price point. Hey, our average sales price is $300,000. We want to get to $500,000. Cool. Open houses. If I want $500,000 buyers or $600,000 or $1 million, buyers and sellers, okay, I just do open houses on. You get to pick the price point that you want to go after. Okay, so now let's talk about, what are the key points that you got to nail when it comes to an open house? So an open house is your storefront for the day where you have the highest probability of your ideal client walking through that door. So we got to reverse engineer this. I want you to think about, who is your ideal client? So for me in my market, now you got to come up with yours in your market. So I'm just using my market as an example. Right now in the market climate that we're in 2025 with the unaffordability crisis, I'm looking for kind of the last stage of move up buyers. So 40 to 55-year-old married couples that are making 200,000 plus, household income. So they're in peak income earning years. They typically have kids still in junior high and high school. This is that last move up buy that they're doing in their lifetime, right? That's who my ideal client is because they can afford to buy. The other reason why I like that ideal client is a lot of times they also have a home that they need to sell in order to buy this. So same energy, effort, cost of, but I get for the same cost per acquisition, I'm getting double the commission on a lot of these, right? So then from there, now I reverse engineer this. So, what type of properties are they looking for? What areas are they looking for? So thinking about this is your storefront for the day to get the highest probability of your ideal clients walking in the door. So one of my coaching clients is their niche is downsizers. So I'm do open houses in all the downsizing communities, right? Like it's like that movie Field of Dreams, right? Build it and they will come. Do the open house on the areas and on the type of properties that your ideal client wants. They will show up to that property, right? So then from there, now let's break down the 6 steps that you got to nail. And then when I say these 6 steps, it's kind of like baking brownies. And I got to come up with a better analogy because I've never baked brownies in my life. But it's like, you could do, you got to add all these ingredients. Then once that's done, you got to have it in a special pan. Then you got to preheat the oven. Then you got to put it in for exact amount of time. Well, if you miss any one of those steps, just one of them, the brownies are going to turn out like crap, right? So when I say these 6 steps, you have to nail all of these steps. And if you nail all these steps, you will be converting at 10% plus. So meaning 1 out of 10 leads that you're getting. So if you're averaging, 10 leads through an open house every single weekend, that's 1 closing a week. Right now, that's not impossible by any means, even in this marketplace, to get 20 leads per open house, or more, if you're following these 6 steps. Okay, step number 1 is going to be property selection. So with property selection, this is again what I talked about earlier of, we got to be very picky and choosy on, this is my storefront for the day. So I want to identify, the best area, the best, neighborhood, the best whatever, where I have the highest probability the ideal client walking through the door. Now for property selection, because in my own market, same city, same everything is the same. I have agents that will come to me saying, "Oh, open houses don't work. I only get 3 to 5 people through." Okay, well, we're getting 20 plus people through every single one of our open houses. But why? Because I mean, we track this stuff. So when it comes to property selection, don't just think about your ideal client for that storefront. I also want you to track it. So what I'm tracking is, okay, what day am I doing the open house? Day of the week? What time am I doing the open house? What's the neighborhood? What's the property address? What's the price point? How many signs did I put out and how many leads did I get? Because if you're tracking that for about 90 days, that's the 80-20 rule, right? You're going to find that, okay, 20% of the areas that you're doing open houses yield you 80% of your leads. So then let's just eliminate the 80% that are only bringing in 20%, right? So that's how you maximize. So property selection, I can't stress enough, is so damn crucial. Okay, so then now that we got property selection, number 2, we got pre-marketing. Now, pre-marketing is pretty easy. If we want to optimize and maximize the amount of people coming to our open house, pre-marketing is just making sure on the MLS 72 hours before that you show that you're doing an open house on that property. So it has time to syndicate to Zillow and Realtor.com and all the IDX sites. And we find about a 5 to 10% increased traffic on that. Now, there's other things that you can do to pre-marketing like I do. But these other things aren't to drive more traffic to the open house. It allows me to leverage that open house event to generate other business. It's kind of like when we get a listing, like we know that if we do an open house on that listing, it's going to sell that property, but we're leveraging that listing to get more business from it. So I'll do paid Facebook ads for the open house event, not because it drives more traffic, but because I know I can get 20 or 30 leads, before the open house even starts. And I like to do paid Facebook ads. It's one of my strategies, right? I'll go out there and door knock and flyer the neighborhood, not to, again, drive more traffic to the open house, but I'm leveraging the open house to have an excuse and a reason to have conversations with the neighbors where I can offer them home equity reports and get listings, right? So you don't need to do those things. They're not going to lead to more traffic at your open house, but it's just another way of, again, taking this thing that we're already doing and creating more opportunities from it. So that's pre-marketing. Okay, the next step, number 3, is going to be your setup, right? So we got to nail setup. So this is going to be your sign-ins, your sign-in process. So a lot of people, okay, what does your average agent do? Okay, I got this open house, got this listing, it's inside this neighborhood. They're going to go to the closest entryway that leads to the property, maybe put out 12 signs. Okay, here's what I do. I print out a Google map of that neighborhood. Most neighborhoods have like 4 entry exit points. I'm going to make sure that any way anybody's coming or going from that neighborhood, they're led to my open house. Then from each of those entryways, I'm going to go out to like up to a half mile to the busiest intersection. 90% of the people that come through my open house said that they saw the open house and came through because they saw the signs. It's one of the questions that I ask, so it's something that we track and measure. So the more signs that we have out there, and the more different directions that we can drive people to the open house, okay, the more traffic that we're going to have. So, I found 24 signs is going to be much better than 12. 36 is better than 24. My average open house is around 60 signs, right? Which sounds like a lot, and it is, but it makes a world of difference. So we got the signs, right? That leads to the property. Then the property itself. And I actually learned this from new builds. I'm looking at these new builds and I'm like, man, they drive like hundreds of people through on the weekends to the models. But I'm like, what do they do, man? They're taking out, ads and all of that. But then from there, like they got signs for like miles leading to the, right? They got huge balloons, they got banners, they got flags. And, I'm not saying that we can all afford to do all of that stuff, but I'm like, hey man, I can kind of make this, kind of emulate this, right? So I go out there, I get a bunch of, and when I say a bunch, I might have 3 to 4 in the front yard, like these big, I get them from Vista flags, these open house, banner flags that I'll put in the front yard, open house signs. Like I want to capture all of the attention of the neighbors. This is how you get sellers, right? Because other sellers are like, holy crap, I want that. Yeah. I want a realtor like that. And I can't tell you how many times I'll have a seller come through my house that has their home actively listed. That's like, hey, man, you've had more people through in the 30 minutes I've been in here than my agent has in the last 2 months. Like, I want this. Can you have a conversation with me about listing my house? Yeah, I can have a conversation. I can't list it until you cancel the contract or get out of the contract. But yeah, I can. They solicited me. I didn't solicit them, right? So that's, I want to make it where people can't ignore me. People like you're just, and it looks kind of obnoxious, looks like a circus, but that's okay. That's what I want, man. So I'll slay out, 6, 7 open house signs between the driveway, the front yard, have the banners, the flags, balloons. Like I want to just have that omnipresence where you're capturing their attention. Okay. So that's going to be, the other part of setup is the sign-in process. So with the sign-in process, because like I said earlier, okay, we want to get, if we chunk this down, okay, we got to get the right people to the open house. That's going to be property selection. Then we got to maximize the amount of people that we're getting to the open house, right, through pre-marketing and through setup. But then from there, once they walk in that door, what's the next step that we need to get them to do? We need them to sign in. So now they're a lead. If they don't sign in, they are not a lead, right? So I need to get 90% of people to sign in without me having to ask. So this is what I do for that, right? I have a retractable banner because what I've found is if you give people explicit, easy to follow instructions with a compelling reason that makes sense in their head as to why you're asking them to do this thing, 90% of human beings just go with the flow. They do what you're asking them to do. People are used to being led. You go to the dentist, you go to the doctor, whatever. Now I used to get, my agents, even on my own team, used to not really believe me when I'd say this stuff. But now that we've all experienced COVID, everybody kind of gets it. And I'm not here to say that, like whatever your thoughts were on COVID, this is just the reality of it, right? Like, okay, overnight we were told what? So simple, easy to follow instructions with a compelling reason as that why we're asked to do these things. So, okay, we're going to shut down, work from home, 6 feet apart, mask up. Yeah, right. The reason that we're asking to do these things is this 100-year friggin' virus pandemic that's killing people. 90% of the population followed the guidelines, no questions asked. So, okay, they're walking up to the front door, about 10 feet from the front door in the entryway. I have a retractable banner that just folds up, I don't know, the height, maybe 7 feet tall or whatever, but it's a retractable banner and it's got steps. Welcome to the open house. And it says step number 1, come inside. Step number 2, sign in. Step number 3, take a look around. Step number 4, fall in love. Step number 5, make an offer. Then below that, it says, if this home is not for you, no worries, I can show you others. So they see that. So those are the instructions. And they get to the front door, laminated sign at eye level, like over the peak hole, that says per seller's request for security purposes, everyone must sign in. Right. So so we give simple, easy steps to follow. Now that's the compelling reason where it's like, hey, I'm stepping into a stranger's house. Guess that makes sense. Maybe I should sign in. Then they walk in. Okay. Then when I first started doing open houses, I realized that big mistake people are making is they're set up in the kitchen. Well, people already can see a third of the house or see if they like it, don't like it. I'm like, no, I need to get them to sign in. So 4 feet roughly from when they walk in. So boom, it's disrupting their path into the property. That's where I'm going to set up my sign-in table. So just go to, Walmart, get a cheap poker table, get a nice tablecloth for it. I'm going to have that retractable sign right next to it again. So it's a repeat of it. Have that same laminated sign, but in a stand. And then I have 3 paper clipboards. I do not use apps. I know it's, what everybody wants to use. It's easier. They automatically get dumped in their CRM. They just are not as effective. Because like an open house is like rains, it pours. It's not like you just get one person, and when that person leaves, the next person, it's like 4 couples show up at once. And I've even went to the extent of having, 3 and 4 iPads on stands with the apps for them to sign in. I've just found paper sign-ins to be way more effective. So I have 3 clipboards right there where they can sign in. So then from there, I want to spend all of my time, which brings me to the next step. So we got setup, sign-in process. Then the next step is the tour process, right? Because now we are face-to-face with the lead, right? I don't care if it's lead, prospect, inbound, outbound. The objective of every initial conversation with the lead in real estate is to identify their goal, identify their timeline, set the appointment if able appropriate, but if unable appropriate, because we know their goal and timeline, now we know how to follow up accordingly to maximize conversions for if and when they're ready. So I'm going to use that tool, to build rapport. But what I'm really looking for is to identify their goal, identify their timeline. So at the end of that appointment, at the end of that tour, I can go in and set that appointment. I'm not going to end any tour. And there's always exceptions to the rule. But, for the vast majority, I do not want to end that tour without asking for the appointment. So let's just say we get done with, the tour and we found out, hey, this home's got 4 bedrooms. They really need 5. So that would be something like, hey, I know this home doesn't exactly meet your criteria. You need a 5th bedroom. Based on what you're telling me, and I'll repeat, what their needs and wants are. Based on what you're telling me, there's a few homes in the area that are on the market, that are available, that I do think will work well for you, that you'd be really excited about. I get out of here at 3. Do you want to maybe meet back in the area around 4 to go check those out? Now, I know I'm going to get a no. Now, if you ask enough people, you're going to get a yes, right? But in most cases, okay, it's a no. Then it's hey, yeah, no worries at all. Hey, I know no worries at all. I know it's short notice. Hey, I got some availability tomorrow. Does tomorrow maybe work better for you? Oh no, we're tied up. Hey, no problem at all. How about I do this? As soon as I get done with the open house and I get back to the office, I'll pull those properties up. Also run a detailed search just to see if there's any other properties that I'm maybe not thinking of that meet your criteria. I'll email those over to you. I'll make sure all my information's included so you can check those out in your own time. Then if you have any questions and would like to go schedule showing, you can call, text, email anytime. Does that sound good? Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, right. So I'm going to always go in for that appointment. I want you guys to understand, and this doesn't matter. It's not just open house leads. It's pretty much any lead source inside your system. You're going to get rejected 5 times before you get your yes, right? It's for that appointment. So it's going to be 5 no's before you get your yes. Okay, well, right there, I got 2 no's out of my way. Now I start the follow-up protocol, right? And again, you ask enough people, boom, you're going to get the yeses. And then the sixth and final step then is you got to nail follow-up. Fortune is in the follow-up. You guys have all heard this, yeah, right? So you gotta nail the follow-up. And when it comes to the follow-up, so there's 3 different lead sources that you're gonna get from your open houses primarily, right? You're gonna get buyers, you're gonna get nosy neighbors, and then you're gonna get sellers where you were able to obtain their address. So I want to have a different follow-up protocol for each. So my follow-up protocol is, okay, before I leave the open house, I shut everything down. I do a personalized video text message to them. So just a quick 15-second. Hey, Mike, Joshua Smith here with eXp Realty. Met you today at 123 West Main Street. Just want to send you a quick video thanking you for taking time out of your busy day, out of your busy life to stop by my open house. It was so great to meet you. This is my personal cell. So if there's anything that you need, anything I can help and support with, please feel free to, call or text anytime. I hope you have a great, amazing rest of your weekend. It's not salesy. It's just a quick thank you, but it's going to be personalized. People, like I'm telling you, when you do personalized video text messages, say people's name. It's a huge part of my follow-up protocol. Conversions skyrocket, right? People are sick of the whole automated BS. Right? They can tell if it's just blasted out to everybody, if it's not, whatever. But why am I doing that? Well, I know they probably went through other open houses that day. I want to differentiate myself. It's not like there's a shortage of real estate agents out there. I want you to always ask yourself, what am I doing? If they're in at least a dozen of my competitors' CRMs, what am I doing to differentiate myself so they're thinking of me? Right. So then, okay, open house is done. Then from there, I'm going to get them into my CRM. Make sure you do it right away because otherwise you're going to forget. Then I put them on a 1,000-day email text drip campaign that's going to be automated. They're personalized because, it's personalized enough, but they're automated drips and text messages that are going out to them based on what type of lead source that they are. Then from there, I'm going to put them on instant property alerts. We want to beat them to Zillow. So as soon as any property comes available, it meets their criteria, boom, it's sent out. Now, maybe I didn't have a chance to converse with them, at the open house. Maybe I was tied up in another tour. This is something that's important too is, okay, if I'm connecting with this couple at this, I'm doing it at the open house, I'm connecting with this couple at this tour, there might be 3 other couples that come in. Like, I'll let them go do their thing and hopefully I can catch them on the flip-flop through the follow-up, right? Like, if you got a sure thing going or you're confident this is a sure thing, like, I'm going to stay there. I mean, I've spent 2 hours with a couple before, full on buyer consultation, have all your materials, be ready to do a buyer consultation, listing presentation. I get people where they'll leave, they'll come back, bring me all their tax returns so I can send it to the lender, just be fully prepared and ready for any scenario and situation there. Okay, so then I'll have them on instant property alerts. Then from there, the reality is, I know people don't like to hear this, but appointments are set on the phones. Yeah. So all my texts, all my emails, all of that goes to, keep front of mind, but to get some type of engagement. So then I can have an excuse to call them, get them on the phone, because appointments get set on the phone. So based on what their timeline is, this is why I said earlier, I'm going to identify what their goal and timeline is. So if I don't know what their timeline is, maybe again, wasn't able to talk with them during that tour. So then from there, my follow-up protocol is going to be the Monday after the open house, then every other day for 14 days. So 7 times in the first 14 days and every 21 days for the first year. That only exists till I get them on the phone, identify their goal, identify their timeline, set the appointment if able appropriate, if unable appropriate, because they don't goal and timeline. Now I know how to follow up accordingly. So then whatever they tell me for timeline, I cut that in half. So, if they're like, oh yeah, we're thinking about buying maybe the next 1 to 2 years. Okay, to me, that means 6 to 12 months. I know in their head it's 1 to 2 years. I'm just telling you guys right now, whatever they tell you, cut that in half. That's what it's the reality of the timeline is probably going to be. So then I've got my under 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 12 plus months. So when I put them on that call tasking drip, I create a drip for these. So then it just tasks. So I just go into my CRM and I just click on my daily, call task queue, and it just tells me exactly who I need to call, why I need to call. So it eliminates all that guesswork so that follow-up doesn't slip through the cracks. So those are the overall, and I know I've just kind of shotgunned here. I'll pause now just because if you have follow-up questions, Mike, but those are like, if you nail those 6 steps, you are going to murder it. You are going to crush it. I had 48 deals my first year, all through open houses. All I did was open houses, and this is where, less is more, man. Like this is why I'd rather you do lesser things for new client acquisition so you can do them better. You can do them more consistently. You can truly master each stage of it so you can go out there and get those results.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. And like you're saying, It's not what you do, it's how you do it, and how intentional you are about the things that you're doing, and so I do have 2 questions that I know most people are probably gonna ask. The first is, based on your incredible wealth of experience with this, do you have a recommended time for open houses that you found tends to be best in terms of daytime?
Yeah, I mean, weekends by far the best, right? Now I have for most of those that are partners, Wolfpack EXP, and my coaching clients, most are going to be Saturdays, in that like 11 to 3, 10 to 3 window.
Yeah.
I know some people talk about like 2 hour open houses. Like, I'm not going to waste my time. Like, I'm going to go, I'd rather, do it for a longer period of time. And here's what I love about open houses too is, okay, like I talk about all these people we get through, and yes, but do we get donuts sometime, meaning nobody through? Yes, that happens. But I also have open houses where I get 70 people through, where it's just overwhelming, right? So they could be, but here's the thing I love about it. It's never down wasted time. Because what am I doing? I got my laptop up. I'm working my CRM. I'm working on systems. I'm working on follow up. It's like it's my office for the day where I have the highest probability of ideal clients walking through that door, right? So Saturdays, kind of 10 to 3 is where I would start. There are some situations, some areas where I have clients that just get better traffic on Sundays. This is why I recommend that you track, and pay
Mhm.
attention to this. Because when I first started, when I said I did 48 deals my first year, now I didn't know all of this stuff. I was doing open houses like the average realtor, but I was doing like 7 a week. But I knew very quickly that, hey, I'm going to get busy to a point where I can't do 7 a week. So I got to start being really intentional, paying attention to this stuff, tracking this stuff, getting laser focused with this to get to the point where I can do one great, amazing mega open house a week and get the same results out of one as I was these 7. That's where I really had to start paying attention to this. So just because most get results on Saturday like a 10 to 3 doesn't mean that's going to be exactly what's best for you. So I would test it. We'll also do weekday open houses. We have good success. The only day that we don't usually have the best success on is Mondays. Now, if I'm
Yeah.
doing them during the week, and it's going to be far less traffic, but again, like you've got nothing going on. Like when I hear that 71% of realtors didn't close one transaction last year, let's just assume that, okay, they have the time. Now, if they have a full-time 60-hour week job and real estate's a side hustle, that's a different story. But let's just say real estate's their full-time gig and they're not closing deals. I'm like, dude, you should be doing open house every single day. Or
Yeah.
something, right? Whether it's door knocking, cold call, like you should be doing something every single day, and you're gonna pop deals, right? So during the week though, now I work a very family oriented area. That was kind of the suburb. We work the suburbs, kind of that surround Phoenix metro. So all the communities that we work are people raising young families. So we kind of hit that after school and after work traffic. So like we'll kind of do like 2 to 6 p.m. during the week.
That's awesome. Yeah, and talking about some of the less trafficked open houses, I always recommend agents to use that as an opportunity to create content, do a property tour, and now you've got stuff for short form content and, talk about buyers tips or sellers tips. And now you've got, all kinds of content for YouTube. So there's ways to leverage it very strategically. Now, the other question that I know, and I get asked this question more than anything else, you talked about the importance of CRM, and more than anybody that that's the holy Bible of your business. What CRM do you use that you're referring to?
Yeah, I use Perfect Storm. And look, I mean, there's so many good systems out there, but just like anything, it's just like we're talking with open houses, like you need to learn it, you need to master it, you need to make sure it's set up correctly based on your lead source, based on, but the system that I use that I have, Perfect Storm, awesome system, full disclosure. I do have ownership in the company, but the benefit of that is I've got all my drip campaign, like everything's pre-built in, so it's plug and play for you on this stuff. If anybody has interest in it.
Yeah, I think that's important because, I oftentimes get asked about CRMs, and the problem is that you get all these different options tossed out, but most of them have outdated campaigns or functionality. It's a logistical nightmare and a technological overwhelm to be able to learn how to use it. And so I know that you've been able to help a ton of people that I also personally know use that CRM and be able to just use it at ease, because that's where most people struggle with it, is that they get so overwhelmed with the tech aspect of it that they know it's important, but they don't use it, and then they leave it, and then their business falls apart. And, for me, I've made that mistake. It's probably the biggest mistake I made in my first 3 years of real estate, is the amount of holes in my bucket and clients that I missed out on for repeat and referral because I didn't properly follow up or stay in touch.
Yeah, and I'll tell you guys this, and this is with what we're talking about, but kind of off topic too, is one of the most important lessons that I learned is small, tiny hinges swing big ass doors. So when I first got in the industry, back in 2005. So I'm old, right? Or older than a lot. Or much older than Mike, I should say. Probably a lot of your audience. But back then, dude, there was no social media, there was no podcast, there was no YouTube. So for me to learn, I knew right out of the gate, hey, I wanted to build $1 million a year real estate business, GCI, which I was able to break that by year 3 in the business. I was like, okay, I need to go learn from people, because most people in my office are making 30 grand a year, right? They're broke. So I'm like, I need to learn from the best of the best. So I had to go jump on airplanes and go shadow, the best of the best that would allow me to. Like my first 2 years, I spent over 40 grand on flights and hotel fees just to go shadow top. And I'll tell you, in the very beginning, dude, I was like disappointed because I was expecting to go in there and see the secret. I was expecting to go in there and see the, like the magic, the secret sauce. And very quickly, though, and that to my disappointment in the beginning was they're doing nothing different. The difference is they're laser focused. They truly master each step of the process, and they do it at a higher level and they do it more consistently than anybody else. So even like little things like email, it's like, okay, are you paying attention to what time of day your emails are going out? Like I look at, okay, I know that the vast majority of my emails are going to be deleted. So what does my sender name look like? Okay, my sender name is going to be Joshua Smith, realtor. So then every time they click that check mark, click that trash can, I'm still having that valuable impression. Yeah, right. Where okay, after that, those 1,000 days of emails going on drip campaigns, plus they get broadcast emails and we fall up indefinitely. Until they opt out or tell Steph off or threaten to sue. Right. Never stop that follow up. Because I'll tell you guys, you might think a lead is cold. Here's an example. We just had our longest converting Facebook lead is in our system for over 6 years. They didn't answer one phone call, never returned one email, never returned one text message. You would assume that they're the deadest of dead leads. Well, 6 years later, at that point, I'm not doing calls or we're not doing calls. It's just automation. But we finally get an email. Hey, thanks for not giving up on me. And it's amazing how many times we hear that. Thank you for not giving up on me. We're finally ready. And we get dozens of those every year that we just ghost us for years. So making sure, and that's where CRM comes in, huge. Like, yeah, I'm going to pound my phone calls, but CRMs are our digital assistant that is going to, we can delegate out the tasks that we can delegate to it. But then the tasks I can't delegate to it, I want that assistant to remind me so I never forget. But then, okay, if after that year of those calls, like I just let automation do its thing. But even that automation piece leads to dozens and dozens of deals every year over time.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And again, if you're listening right now and you have any other questions about what Josh walked through, or you actually want help setting your CRM up and being able to get all of these strategies dialed in and specifically tailored to you and your market, just click that link below again in the description, and you could have your conversation with Josh, and we could talk about what that looks like. But dude, thanks again for being able to just break down that crystal clear plan and to know that it's just working so well. And as you're talking about, if you're one of the 71% that didn't close a deal, or even part of the 29% that closed less than 5, make sure that you're doing something every single day that feeds your business, generates leads. And if you want help with that, again, you can have your conversation. I'm more than happy to chat about how we can help take your business to the next level. So dude, thanks again for sharing everything.
Yep, it's an honor. Hopefully this was valuable and helpful to everybody.